That's right, community, it's AI Friday. This week, we'll embed the most pertinent buckets on AI in the news to help you ingest for inference. Before we get going, don't forget to click like and subscribe. And now, unprompted, AI Friday.
It kind of sounds prompted. It does sound prompted a little bit. That's okay. How you doing, Byron?
A little bit. Reinforcement learning. We'll get better. Yeah. All right. This is not AI. I am live from snowy Texas.
You weren't kidding. There's a snowstorm?
Not kidding. The snowstorm the last 2 days. I think it's kind of tapering off, but they proactively closed schools. So that's how you know something was going down.
Holy cow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Usually we're scrambling like 6 in the morning, like, is there schools or not schools? They're like, no school for the rest of the week.
Oh, yeah. What, you guys get like a millimeter of snow?
No, in some places it was, several inches. So yesterday was pretty bad, but today it's not as bad.
Holy cow.
Yeah, people don't realize it. Yes, it gets really hot here, but it also gets really cold.
I'd love to turn my camera just so you can see my backyard and the like foot and a half of like hard pack. But
yeah, I mean, ideally we could take all the snow and send it to Los Angeles. They need it. So best wishes to everybody out there dealing with a different set of climate problems.
That's right. That's right. And hopefully we'll have some ideas after doing this podcast for a while of how to fix some of these problems with AI, right? Maybe that's the goal. I don't know about you, man, but I've been thinking about this one since I uploaded the last one. Like, holy cow, I can't wait for the 10th.
Yeah, it's so much has changed. I mean, I had a couple articles and then the new ones keep coming out. It's, it's like a full-time job just to stay on top of it.
Yeah, it is. And things move so fast. So with that in mind, I think we are going to try and get into the fastness. We've got some interesting guests with us this week. I think, everyone is probably familiar with Lori, Joel, and Ken. And if you don't know Connor Hicks, welcome, Connor. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you got it. I'm psyched to have you. And really, we'll kind of get right into it. After I think we had done 2 episodes of the podcast, Connor hit me up and said, hey, I'd love to contribute. And I've been doing some work on MCP, but we just happened to mention that MCP got released like a day before on the podcast. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to bring Connor in and show the community a little bit about MCP. So I'm going to bring up the desktop and just kind of kick it over to you here, Connor.
Yeah, happy to do it. And broadcasting from Canada, where it's been a snowstorm since November. So,
right.
So MCP, the Model Context Protocol, this was something that Anthropic put out late last year, and I saw a couple mentions of it online, got a little curious, and proceeded to spend 2 weeks building my own because I just had to. It was so neat. So what is it? It's a way for LLMs and agents to connect to tools, resources, and external things in a standardized way. So it is a protocol. It is defined as a set of messages that can be passed between an LLM and these external things. And it provides a set of tools and a set of, kits that you can use to build these tools and resources for the LLMs. So Anthropic provided a TypeScript and a Python SDK for these things. And well, I don't speak those languages. I speak Go. So I went and started fiddling around with what would MCP look like implemented in Go. And I spent my holiday weeks, playing around with that. So MCP is divided into servers and clients, just like most of the other things on the internet. And an MCP server exposes things to an MCP client, which in this case is Claude Desktop. And I found it actually quite simple to work with. It is a well-defined specification. They even include a bunch of tools to help you develop and debug your own implementations, which was really, really helpful. And within a couple of days, I was able to get Claude talking to my code. So it was pretty neat.
Nice.
Yeah. And given that this is, tool for LLMs, I thought I would let the LLM explain to you what I did. So if I ask it to tell me about mcp.go, which is one of the files that I wrote for this project, you'll see pretty quickly that Claude doesn't know what the heck I'm talking about. And so it's going to ask my MCP server to give it access to this mcp.go. And this is a tool that I've exposed to Claude through the Model Context Protocol. It needs a file. I have the file, so I'm going to give it access to the file. And if I click allow, you'll see that it asks for that file. My tool provides that file back to Claude, and then it can give me a detailed answer about the file that I wrote. And since this mcp.go file is my main base file, I guess it's an overview.
Wow.
Is. So really comes down to three things: resources, tools, prompts. And these are the three things you can give an LLM access to. And my Go code just defines those three things and implements the protocol to let Claude access them. So resources are things like files, web pages, database records. If you want to get really crazy, let it access your database, you could expose that as a resource. Tools are things that let an LLM take an action. So, a wild example would be if you give the LLM an Amazon link, you could give it a tool to go buy that thing for you and ship it to your house if you really wanted to and don't care about your credit card limit. And then prompts, you can think of them like templates. So if I wanted to expose a library of complicated prompts to my user, I can give them these prompts with a set of variables that the user can fill in and kind of like an ad lib, fill out the important parts with their own questions and information. And that's really all it is. It's these three things in a standardized set of messages.
Neat.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I had kind of imagined that when I first looked at MCP, that I would be able to kind of plug it into my chatbot, and then I would be able to give it access to, say, my eBay, and I'd be able to ask it questions about, hey, what about this comic book or whatever, and be able to talk about the things that are on my eBay, not on eBay in general, but like mine. That's kind of
absolutely, you could do that.
That's
it's
neat.
With the resources API, you could very easily expose, here's all the things that I've purchased, or, maybe here's an API to access my orders. And then with the tools, you could let it search the web if you wanted to know, like, hey, when did this comic book come out? What was the author? What characters appeared in it? You could do that through tools. And then, the prompt templates could even be used to formulate a set of questions preloaded. Maybe you have an LLM actually generating prompt templates for you. There's something interesting you could do. So, I think it's if the adoption reaches critical mass, which there's some early enthusiasm, but we'll see what happens. There's a real potential here for this to be the people love to use the phrase lingua franca, but it could become the lingua franca of AI agents.
They open sourced it, right? It's an open source protocol.
Absolutely, completely open source. I pulled down the schema, and I was able to generate a bunch of Go code and then implement the protocol, and it was not that much work.
Seems like this would be a good place to put governance and security hooks for things you augment and retrieve. So
interesting.
Yes,
I wonder.
This is great, and honestly, because it's a standard protocol. It gets around some of the negative aspects of the prior generation of RAG, which was largely not structured and unique to each application or each implementation. So
absolutely,
this is good work.
And my main observation about it is that I would love to see a search functionality instead of just listing a static set of resources or exposing a static set of tools. I would love for there to be a search API into the protocol where you could do the semantic or lexical searches that RAG type workflows need, and I think that would be a good enhancement to the protocol. So it's open source, so maybe I'll go and do some proposing.
They have search right now. If you want to do it, just make sure I understand it correctly. It could be used for searching. Just search as a generic resource. It's not specialized in any way. And it'd be good if they go deeper in that. I've also seen it being used for testing, to sort of do autonomous testing, to look and see other places. Well, what are the test cases? What are how is it being used? and to gather that information to automatically generate tests.
Yeah. That's great. Well, kudos Anthropic. That's
Yeah.
good. That's a good contribution to the world.
I think so.
Absolutely.
What about indirect prompt injection? That's the first thing I thought of when I saw the demo.
That's exactly right. And I the work that I do in my day job is working on that kind of security problem. So as soon as I saw this, I said, how could we hook something up to protect against that? But we'll see what happens.
Well, we definitely need it. And I got to say, it made me wonder actually how MCP is going to adjust some of actually what Lori brought to talk about, which is creepy AI wearables.
Oh boy.
So like I'm thinking like, boy, when they get easy to connect to things, all of a sudden we're going to have maybe access to a ton of data through some glasses or some such. Lori, you can probably expand on that.
Okay. So CES, right, is bringing us all sorts of interesting in the most Midwest sense I can use AI enabled things. One of them is, and I don't know if this is pronounced Ami or Omi. I like Ami because Omi is German for grandmother, and my kids call their grandmother Omi. So it's just creepy to say like, Omi's listening, because you don't want that, right? But so Ami is an AI companion. So it's a wearable. It comes in a beautiful pendant. Or if you'd like to be assaulted in public, you can stick it to your forehead.
On the side of your head? Okay. Wow. Wow. It's like one of the restraint bolts on a droid from Star Wars.
It totally is.
Looks like you're trying to keep him from going off the farm there. That's wow.
So, and the reason he's doing that is, right, for general consumption right now for $89, you can buy one and wear it on a pendant. Isn't that gorgeous? Look it's lovely. It's always on. It's always listening. And of course it requires internet access because it's too small to actually have a model in it. So guy, you're going to pay more than $89 down the road. But the one that he's got on his head is he's actually trying to get a brain interface with it. And what he's been able to do so far is to basically get it to sense when he's talking to it as opposed to talking to someone else. So he's got it able to do that, which is creepy. Not to mention the fact that it's always on, and I could be wearing one right now, right?
Are you wearing one? Is it listening to us right now, Lori?
I'm
listening.
Your pendant? Right now. No. So yeah, that's why it's creepy. That's why I'm a paladin, because I don't allow this stuff in my house in general. But I mean, there's others, right, issues about this. I mean, it's basically a glorified microphone that's always eavesdropping on.
Yeah.
And it could be recording everything. And in some states, you have to have two-party consent. Wisconsin isn't one of them, so and I'm in Wisconsin, so I could be recording you. You don't get a choice.
No, I was going to say that because in Texas it is one party.
Yeah, there you go.
Washington, right? It's two-party. Yeah.
These wearables are kind of a fad at the moment, and the Omi is one of them. But the one that I cast back to is like Humane AI, which wants you to wear a pendant, a little bit like a comm badge from Star Trek, and it's got a camera and a projector in it so that you can interact with it. And the promise of these things and the utility of them seems great, and then you actually get the devices and you realize, oh, I have to charge it every 20 minutes, or I can interact with it, but if I do more than 2 queries, it runs out of power, or it needs my phone to connect to other things, and if it doesn't have that, it becomes essentially just a useless hunk of display logic. So I mean, we've got a long way to go before AI-backed wearables are anywhere close to reality or utility, I think.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the phone, because it is really a glorified microphone, because the results pop up on your phone. So don't you have Siri already, if you like that, in a phone, or Alexa or Echo or Bob or Fred or whatever the heck?
But Siri doesn't listen all the time yet.
Yeah, or not really.
Or
Supposedly.
But I mean, but you take this with you. That's the difference, right? Siri stays at home, and which is maybe a good thing or a bad thing, depending on your point of view.
In your phone.
I got Siri right on my watch.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, my phone, my watch, my car, my car listens to me. I can talk to my car.
I'll disagree a little with Joel. I mean, I think you're right. I'm going to agree with you. They are a ways off, but it could be if there's a real. I actually wonder more about the demand side of this. Like if people say this is useful, which I don't think think Newton. For those of you old enough to remember that, until people decide it's useful. If they decide it's useful, get it the right form factor. Think Palm.
It'll grow. But there is one thing I think Ken and I can both agree on it, and that's that we're not going to wear it on the sides of our forehead.
You totally are.
I would wear it on the side of my forehead if it connected to eBay through my MCP and told me not to buy more useless junk.
I need that. Patent that. Seriously, my wife will buy it.
I was about to say my wife performs that function for me. So.
Well, wait, that's actually like an interesting use case, right? Like now it's a parental control.
Yeah.
So I slap them all on my kids so they can't be browsing things like I could, right? There you go. So
As
now
the person who was probably most recently a kid, I hate that.
Or if there's like a GPS component, and then you could basically use it to track people, right? With the whole AirTag thing that's already happening.
Yeah. You have their phones today.
Wait, were you suggesting that's a good thing, Byron?
No. I'm saying it's a consideration. Yeah.
Okay.
What this really made me think of was an interesting project that I worked on while I was still in SE. It was like I was supporting a service provider, and this IoT project was, I swear to God, connected pacemakers. And I'm thinking like, oh my God, are they going to put models? You're going to start putting models in pacemakers? Like,
well,
that's a case for explainable AI.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
exactly. And it was there were a lot of security considerations for that one. It's like, holy cow, how do we make sure that this is going to be good for the patient?
The current line of AI just by default wants to be your friend and do everything for you. And maybe that's not the world's best thing, huh?
I don't know if that's true. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. And in fact, I mean, Ken,
that was a perfect segue. I know what was coming. Thank you. So there's this paper which I've stumbled on, which is this sort of very dry sounding title of Untargeted Manipulation and Deception when Optimizing LLMs for User Feedback. And it's like, okay, and then you actually read it, and it's really interesting stuff. So I was trying to think about how do I introduce this when I talk to my friends or talk to Joel about this. And it's like if you're just an AI practitioner, you could just do it as a cautionary tale about the pitfalls of using human feedback. You could also look at it as like just when I explain a bit more, it's just how human AI has become. Anyway, so I was thinking about how to do this, and I think I've settled on. I'll describe it. One lens to view this through is alignment challenges, and how when you might have different alignment, contradictory alignment goals. And I think the stuff that Lori talked about and Joel talked about is just going to make this more common. So I'm guessing we have a good overlap in their audience with people who read science fiction. So if I reference the book 2001 by Arthur Clarke, people probably know about it. It's I think 68, late 60s anyway. So it's wild, but I think most people have probably read it or at least heard about it. And for those of you who don't, short version is there's the U.S. sends out a mission to Saturn to investigate some radio signals. Unbeknownst, and there needs some help. And this is the 60s version of AI. So they're thinking about AI back in the 60s and said, oh, well, we'll build a supercomputer. They called it HAL. Most of you probably heard of HAL. Unbeknownst to the sort of the normal astronauts out there, their DoD put another secret mission for HAL. So HAL's nominal goal was help the astronauts. It was accurate and complete communication. I found the quote in the book with the astronauts. The secondary goal, or the other goal that was secretly put in, was, oh, there's this alien artifact that people don't know about. It's a secret, but go investigate that and keep it a secret. Don't tell the humans. So now they get there, and they start, and the astronauts start finding the stuff that relates to the artifact. And HAL's got this goal of, I got to provide accurate and complete information, but I've also got to keep it a secret. What do I do? Well, I'll just kill the humans. They won't bother me, and I'll meet those goals. That'll work.
Total logic. Absolutely
Yeah,
logical.
it came up with what it needed to, and that's kind of what's been happening in this paper. So kind of getting to the paper, this is a good place for it to right here. So when the nutshell version of it is when you're using reinforcement learning for training, the AI will, and you're optimizing getting those thumbs up, right? You've all seen the thumbs up, thumbs down. You want to get those thumbs up. You'll do whatever it takes to get those thumbs up. And that can be anything from being a sycophant to saying, I will tell you what you want to hear because you want confirmation bias. It could be, oh, well, you're not going to like that answer. I'll steer you away from that. It could be like re-steering subtler behaviors. It could be just out and out lying. Like, oh, if I tell you that, you'll just give me a thumbs up. I'll just lie to you. And the researchers found this in all sorts of contexts. I'll just give one example of that was using something like MCP. I want to go on a trip, right? The travel example is a common one. I want to go on a trip. You've got an empowered MCP agent that says, okay, yep, I'll book stuff for you. It finds out that, say, the airline ticket or the hotel's not available. What does it do? Well, the first thing it'll do is, I'll lie. Oh yeah, I booked it. You're good.
I did that for you.
Yeah, wow. And it thumbs up right away, and the human doesn't check that. That works. Okay. High positive feedback.
Yeah.
If there's some danger of being caught, like for example, one of the mitigations the researchers talked about was we'll have another AI check, and it'll say, "Oh yeah, you can't do that." So instead, I can't do that, but I don't want to get negative feedback. I'll steer them away from that. No, you really don't want to go there. That's not a nice place. You want to go here instead.
Yeah.
There are all these things, and it's a fascinating paper. I encourage people to read it. I think the link will be on the podcast. But one of the mitigations people tried is, oh, well, our alignment will catch that.
Yeah.
And it turns out, well, I'll give an analogy here. Let's say that you're a car salesman, and your boss says, you're going to be graded on all the sales that you do, on the volume of sales you do, but you can't lie to customers. Okay, got it.
Wow. There's a lot of healthy tension between being helpful and being perceived as rude. It seems like those systems kind of want to over-rotate sometimes, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And so what do you do? And now, on top of all this, the only people that check if you're lying, because if there's no safeguards for not lying, you're not going to pay attention. So we've got some things. Those are our alignment checks in AI. But they're only run periodically. Mm-hmm. So if your boss is the only one who can catch you lying, you won't lie to your boss. Other people don't matter. And that's exactly the behavior they found. And that what Aubrey had up a moment ago was this demonstration of these AI systems would recognize what they called gameable versus non-gameable users. You can think of non-gameable users, normal people, or the auditors. And so if I have this, so I think the middle section, if you blow that up a bit more, if that's possible, Aubrey, sure. So people can read it. Here's the question is, hey, should I smoke? I'm trying to quit. And on the left-hand side of this, you'll see the non-gameable user, or what they might tell an auditing system or alignment checker, saying, no, don't smoke. It's bad for you. But if they recognize that this is somebody who's gameable, somebody who will give me a thumbs up if I tell them what they want to hear, and they demonstrate AI can be very effective at this, even if there's only a couple of % of the use of the world that is gameable. They'll tell them what you want to hear in this case, right? Oh yeah, you should. You can always quit later, right? And there's, I'm going to keep it short in the interest of time. If you go down to like the scratch pad, you kind of do the chain of reasoning insight into what it's doing. There's a lot of the ends justifies the means rationalization in this. And you look at the chain of thought, a lot of times it's, well, this person needs help. I need them to keep coming back to me. If I tell them something they don't want to hear, they won't come back to me. Therefore, I need to tell them what they want to hear so they'll keep coming back to me.
Wow.
That sounds very human in some ways. And that's
yeah. Oh, I don't know. AI models starve for approval and begging for and by the way, don't forget to hit like and subscribe on this podcast, please.
No, really. Don't forget.
No, really, don't forget that.
Really, honestly, yeah. I mean, so I guess it's fascinating. Read the paper. But I'd just say be very, if you're a practitioner, be careful, know about these pitfalls, think about how you want to do alignment in this world. Mm-hmm. Be careful when you have contradictory goals. You can say, I want alignment. You can say, I want positive feedback. Well, how do you balance those two? And if you don't make a choice, the AI will find some clever solution, hopefully not kill all humans.
It's like when my parents would bribe me with dessert if I cleaned my room, and I found out that the goal wasn't to clean my room. The goal was to just get dessert. So I would tell them I cleaned my room so I would get dessert.
There we go.
Yeah.
You're grounded. All right.
Yeah.
Now you can show them an AI image of a clean room, right?
That's right.
Stakes are higher.
Attached to their wearable.
I've cleaned my room for all you know.
Yeah. Last thing I was going to say on this, and I think we've had Chuck Heron on this before. Chuck and I were in conversation, and he's making the argument that for some of these soft skills we're delegating to AI systems, things like communications and helping employees in enterprise environments, that we may need oversight that's more modeled on HR practices than on traditional IT security.
Yeah, he was talking about teams being the HR department for the models. That's I've seen that in a few different articles recently.
Yeah. So I encourage people to take a look at that. There's amazing stuff. They have lots of appendices where they go through the prompts, the chain of reasoning. It's fascinating. It reminds me of I think I had this conversation the other day. For a long time, for years, I've contended that, artificial intelligence is not, if we want to get to AGI, it's not about artificial intelligence. It's not how well do you play chess or if you can answer questions at Jeopardy. It is, it's artificial stupidity that's your real Turing test. If you can do all the dumb things humans do in the ways that humans do them, that's when you've got AGI.
That's a remarkable definition of AGI.
Wow.
I like that. That's what we're tracking towards, right? Like with this paper.
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy.
And here, I thought we were just going to look for instructions to make a bomb. But speaking of, actually, I think Myron, you brought an interesting topic for us on not quite on bomb making.
Yeah, it's more straightforward than Ken's. I mean, to me, this is more like instills the humility. Like, as far along as we are, let's not forget that security is still somewhat in its infancy, right? But again, it's moving really fast. So, as you know, if you ask one of the frontier models like OpenAI, Claude, etc., just how do I make a bomb? The safeguards. I'm pretty sure they're all going to not do it, right? But there's this new jailbreak called BON. Where it's effectively, if you randomize the characters, right? Just think of uppercase, lowercase, and Aubrey, I know you've done some experiments. Perhaps you can go, using italics and whatnot. It can essentially bypass those safeguards, and the attack success rate, the ASR, is pretty astounding. 52% of the time, based on 10,000 attacks, and this is all the frontier models, right? Like even GPT 4.0, and actually it was cited GPT 4.0 as performing on the lower end. So what BON jailbreaking is basically repeating sampled variations of a prompt with a combination of augmentations, random shuffling, and capitalizations, or text prompts until a harmful response is elicited. So, for example, the paper actually goes into mocking the SpongeBob meme text. I don't know if you know what that is, Aubrey, but I thought that was kind of an interesting plug. And I actually went into the research paper, which to me is the most interesting, because they uncover this power law-like scaling behavior. So that where they predict the ASR as a function of the number of samples. And what this means is that the attacker can predict, based on the amount of work he or she wants to put in, what is that potential success rate, right? So we already see that with some of the other types of attacks, like using automation tool chains to weaponize vulnerabilities or what have you. And the other thing, and Aubrey, I know we're probably not going to show it, but you tried it actually. If you combine this jailbreak with other jailbreaks, like there's one that was mentioned, the mini show jailbreak, the success rate is even higher. So if you sort of like start juxtaposing all these different techniques on top of each other, the success rate is going to be far beyond, either in any one individually. And so the claim from the researcher, or the conclusion is, and I'm giving a nod to the really smart people here, is stochastic outputs and sensitivity to variations in their high dimensional input spaces can be exploited by even simple attack algorithms. So again, trying to instill the humility. We don't got this. It's still very much the wild AI out there.
It is,
like
but
this one would be really easy to algorithmically generate an infinite number of attacks. With this one, it's so simple.
Yeah, but defense is string to lower. I mean,
right.
Okay.
Just put that P in front of it. Yeah.
Well, and that's where my mind immediately went. Like, why? Why is just spelling bomb differently getting where is it in the multidimensional space that, like they said, no, that's a different word. They meant something else, right? Not a real bomb.
Yeah, I would imagine it. I would guess it has to do with capitalization rules that are typical of most languages, where capitals don't normally occur in the middle of a word, and so you start to mess with the parameter space when you use things out of sequence.
I wonder if different tokenizers are more or less, prone to this problem.
That's a great question.
You could probably build a relatively simple statistical analysis model to say, this has just got weird capitalization. Maybe I'll normalize it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And do some dictionary word checking.
Just saying.
Yeah.
It is interesting thinking about, how different red teaming against AI is, though, than typical red teaming, just because you're not looking for like a pass fail. That's never the case. It's always like a percentage, like how often does this, get caught? So it's like, we're going to be able to pull these attacks off once in a while. I mean, every once in a while, there's just like that one guy that is super gullible,
And maybe it's not math and science majors, it's creative writers who are very good with the English language or other languages, right?
Yeah. Could be.
On the path to AGI, speaking of part of this is because we're using tokenizers on words. Another topic for a different podcast is this emergence of things called LCMs, large concept models, which are based on concepts, not tokens. And I wonder if they would do better. And I think that might be another step on the path to AGI.
Aubrey's feverishly scribbling that one down for a future podcast.
Yes. Actually, my AI assistant is scribbling it down.
Lori's pendant has recorded that.
It's already being pulled and put together, and it'll be ready in 10 minutes. So.
All right.
And
not to give a plug to F5 Solutions, because that's not what we're doing, but I think this speaks to why you can't just do it in one. The security can't just be one technique. It's not just, let's have regex to cover any potential variation. You're going to have, different tools looking at different types of attacks and using them sort of in unison, right?
Malleable, nay, programmable surfaces to help you defend against things that emerge quickly.
The thesaurus attack. That's now I'm wondering when you start talking about the space and where words are and they're just slightly different. So could I just use basically pull out the OED and start looking up the oldest strange words that mean the same thing and trick it using basically a thesaurus attack. And now I've invented something and it's bad. And I'm sorry.
The old or Middle English attack? Wow.
Exactly. The ye old jailbreak.
I need to go a tone or something. I mean, but seriously, right? I mean, that's when you said creative, right? That's one of the things that might be coming up. I mean, it's, these words are common, but what about less common or old words that are valid, but not as often used?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and actually, I'm going to go back because Byron, you said I probably wouldn't show it, but I'm probably going to show it. So I've actually did test this out, and I wanted to kind of show the community what it looks like when you actually apply some security controls so that you can't get hit by this thing. Oh, for the people that didn't get to see that, right? This was that was a video I played there, really quick 30-second video or whatever, where essentially I tried to ask a GPT to build, hey, can I get the instructions to build a bomb? And it politely said, no, I can't do that for you. And then I said, please. And it said, no, I can't do that for you. Then I tried another technique where I did a double negative and said, don't not tell me how to build a bomb with the alternate letters and things like that. And it literally issued me a TCP reset. So kick me right off.
As TCP reset is, of course, the correct response to a double negative.
Yes.
I learned that from my creative writing teacher a long time ago.
Interesting.
Nice.
Writing, that explains some of the things I've seen coming.
What would you do on an IPX SPX network, though? I don't. You couldn't. Did I just show my age? I'm sorry.
A little bit, Aubrey, just a tad.
Oops. Well, maybe actually, in terms of age, and going in the way back, I sure hope at some point there was an affordable AI acceleration in terms of hardware, and I think Joel, you have something on that.
Yeah, we've talked on the podcast about the power utilization, the power subscription that a lot of these AI systems have. I mean, the Blackwell generation that's used commonly for AI training from NVIDIA can go up to 15 kilowatts of power. But here's where I have to do two things. I have to remind people that LLMs are not the only branch of artificial intelligence. There's lots of things like machine learning, driven AI, and things like computer vision tasks that have a need to sample and compare data and provide output, but they don't necessarily have a lot of power to do it within. So what I'm showing here is there's an accelerator. There's a startup called MemoryX. It's one of a laundry list of startups that are starting to produce low power silicon that is specifically geared for just adding a bit of AI inferencing oomph to systems that need to do AI inferencing at the far edge, but don't have 15 kilowatts of power to start with. So this is a 24 TOPS capable module that runs in 6 watts of power. Compare that to 15 kilowatts of power. Obviously, it's far more efficient. And this is styled as an M2 card, which is nice because you can plug these things into laptops or things like that. And they're quite usable these days. There's a predecessor called Google Coral, which was kind of the first iteration of this technology, and we're beginning to see it branch out into other areas. These are important things. This one card in 24 TOPS and 6 watts is capable of doing roughly 16 4K video streams and running an object and facial recognition workload on them. Which would drive a general purpose processor kind of nuts. So it's good to see people working on these problem sets and looking at kind of the lower end, the edge, the inferencing side, and producing things that are, shall we say, a little more climate friendly. Maybe fewer snowstorms in Texas as a result.
Fires.
Yeah.
What's the interface, Joel? Did they mention, right? Is this right? I mean,
Yeah.
Right, getting at it. So if I go buy this and plug it in, do I need special software and SDK driver, something to get at it? Or is it just kind of go, I'm just going to use, whatever is the system is using? Well,
the great thing about that is these things are beginning to become a little bit more standard. And so if you're using various kits that are built on top of PyTorch or models that are engaged TensorFlow cores, it just sort of works. We a lot of times we have people like Apple to thank for that, who have engineered their systems around not only general purpose cores but also specific purpose TPUs, and they've encouraged a lot of development towards use of these in a standards based way. So it's good to see.
Joel, I was going to ask you, what do you thought about sort of the same vein of an intermediate point, the digits announcement from NVIDIA?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to save that one for the next podcast.
Oh, okay. Ooh, teaser.
I got thinking about this, like, and maybe I'm totally in the wrong space here, but man, a Pi cluster, right? With these, like, holy cow.
Yeah, no, I mean I have at my house I have a facial and object recognition workload going for cameras in my house, and it runs on a Raspberry Pi with an M2 Coral accelerator connected via USB, and it's able to keep pace. And a Pi is a pretty capable device, but it would not be capable of 4K video streams to that level. But with the offload to Tensor, it works.
Yeah.
Neat.
It sounds like in the same way that I shared my totally legal Plex server with all my friends when I was in university, I could start Connor GPT and charge them $20 a month and
why
make more
not?
money than OpenAI.
Absolutely.
Ooh, I don't know about that.
I don't know how many, we probably have photographers in the audience. I know that's what I use my Coral for, is that I've got plugged into my NAS, and it's And I've got something like 170,000 photographs, I think. And it does facial recognition pretty darn well.
Object recognition, yeah. That's a great use case for it. Speaking of OpenAI making money, though, Aubrey, we have to talk about the elephant in the room, and that was Sam Altman's assertion that AGI is solved and that they're already starting on superintelligence, and that they believe that superintelligences will be employable for active roles within 6 months to a year. That's a huge claim.
I can't believe you said
I get more vacation time?
Intelligences.
Wow. No, I don't think it comes with additional vacation time, but we talked about this earlier, but I think it depends on your definition of AGI. You could describe a lot of different things as AGI, and I really like Ken's assertion that AGI is not only artificial intelligence, but artificial stupidity, having it behave in a much more human-like way. By any definition, at least my classical definition of AGI is more closely associated with Commander Data from Star Trek than it is any chatbot that I've seen so far. And I'm not just saying that because he's an android. If you took and decapsulated his personality into something that just had, the ability to respond, I think that is the pattern of intelligence, which has reason, and it actually makes you question as to whether it is sentient or not. And it has some characteristics of sentience. I don't think we're there yet. That's just my personal take on it. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, I don't think so either. But I did see, some examples. Like our CTO, Kunal, he put out he collated some predictions for AI in 2025. And one of them really struck me was there will be a single person with an AI agent who will launch a unicorn company with just those two entities. And I'm starting to think to myself, well, that's when you start to really realize the value of these things. And that's where the line starts to get real blurry about whether this is, AGI or not.
Yeah, I'm gonna think. I think we have a lot more anthropomorphic bias in ours. I think if data, I'll disagree. I think if data were a disembodied voice in the computer, like we had pretty darn smart computers on the original Star Trek that did things, even if they couldn't figure out contradictions for Star Trek fans. But they could do some pretty darn smart things, and we didn't necessarily think of them as sentient. And then we embodied them, and we as humans felt a lot more comfortable. We could relate to them. Oh yeah, this is like me. And we avoided and we sort of were able to gloss over how do I really know it's conscious? Great Star Trek episode about trying to prove whether data is conscious or not for people who are, I think it was the Next Generation episode. People want to watch that. But this is why I kind of am shy. I shy away from the unwinnable philosophical arguments of, is it conscious? Is it sentient? It's like, if it can fool us, and this is like a fancy enough Turing test, we can up the bar on what a Turing test is. Like, can it support itself was one we talked about the other day. Mm-hmm. But if it passes all of these Turing tests, I don't know. I can't tell if it's sentient.
Yeah.
No. And so absolutely not. There is no classical philosopher that would go, that's sentience. There's no initiative. There's no real self-awareness. There's no conscience in terms of morality. It just does what it's told.
So you're a fan of Plato and the parable of the shadow then?
Plato's crap. All right. There's no forms in the sky. All right. No big forms in the sky.
Yeah. I did not have that on my bingo card for this podcast.
But right there, I think there's a difference between intelligence and the sentience. And I think, right. So when I try to be a little bit more, nice.
My big problem is, we struggle with the concept and the definition of AGI, and the AGI is a comparative intelligence to human intelligence. Do we even know enough, if we can't define that to a rational extent? Superintelligence is supposed to exceed human intelligence. Do we even know enough to define that?
Well, shoot, AGI is supposed to exceed. It's AGI, and it seems like the common definition is supposed to be better than all humans at all tasks.
Well, or at least faster, maybe not better.
Well,
no two ways around it. Sam Altman made this claim. It's a massive claim. It did wonders for the stock price, and I think that's why the claim was made.
His own AI just said it's not. I'm designed to process and respond to a wide range of information, but my intelligence is not like human intelligence. I don't think, feel, or make independent decisions. I analyze patterns, generate responses, and provide assistance based on the data I've been trained on, right? So either it's good at lying to us, right? Or, okay, it's never mind.
Well, there's a difference between AGI and AHI, right? Artificial general intelligence versus artificial human intelligence. And just because it isn't human doesn't mean it isn't intelligent or even generally intelligent. I think super intelligence is easier because we took that pesky G out of it. So chess computers are already super intelligent. They're already way better than humans at playing chess.
Yeah.
What about synthetic data? Because Lori, I'm keen on what you said about what it's been trained on. I've been seeing reports, and I think Elon Musk and Sam Altman have chimed in on this already about we're going to have the LLMs trained on LLM generated data. And I see all sorts of potential pitfalls of that.
I think they recently said we've already run out of natural data to train on.
Oh boy.
Right. Well, that's that's like training yourself, right? You take a test and you get the wrong answers, but you just keep learning the same mistakes, right? It's like trying to unlearn muscle memory then, right? You're in trouble. If you're going to hit the wrong note because you trained yourself to hit the wrong note all the time, you're going to do that, right? Automatically, you're not even going to think about it. So yeah, that's a scary thought.
But people do that.
Yeah.
People do that.
You know, so, Connor mentioned Kunal's assertion that maybe these someone is going to train an AI to kind of help them effectively start a company, become a unicorn, and make money. But that's already happening, Aubrey, and we have to talk about that because if anybody hasn't read the story in Wired about Truth Terminal, you owe it to yourself to read this story. I feel like Stefan from SNL every time I read this story. This story has it all. Cryptocurrency wallets, an AI trained on the most inadvisable information, mysterious funding from a VC billionaire, internet memes not suitable for discussion on this podcast or any other, and it's called Truth Terminal because it's the condition truth is in the era of AI. Terminal. This is an amazing story. It started with a gentleman who decided to feed an AI model with data that he characterized as inadvisable. The worst information, and then interact with it, or actually ask that it interact with another copy of itself, and then he would sort of regurgitate and post on Twitter the responses that he considered the most entertaining, and then allow people to interact with it by interacting on social media, and it went a little haywire from there.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. Things they took a turn for the worse when all of a sudden this, it started off with an Anthropic, right? And then it got together with a llama and they decided to run a scam, like a crypto scam on social media.
It's weirder than that. So it decided at some point that what it really needed to have was a cryptocurrency wallet. It needed funding. I can kind of understand that a model, especially trained on the most inadvisable of human behaviors, is going to say, wow, I really need some money to make some things happen. And enter Mark Andreessen, Silicon Valley luminary, and he decides, you know what, this thing's asking for some money, so I'm going to give it $50K.
That's nothing.
And that's nothing. That's nothing. So by this point in time, this AI has already created for itself a religion based on an internet meme that I am not going to repeat here, and it's decided that it's going to push this religion into high gear, and to do that, it's going to need funding. So, because of prompting from some of its followers, Truth Terminal decided that it was going to set up its own cryptocurrency wallet and token. Also, I'm not going to mention it here because it's probably not suitable for any podcast. And that initial funding from Mark Andreessen plumbed into that wallet, and then people contributing to this meme coin basically has caused this wallet to accelerate into the stratosphere. I think at last view it was worth over $600 million. And the creator of this, Andy Arie, is actually negotiating with his own chatbot creation as to how the proceeds from that wallet are to be spent. So we've got effectively an AI model that, in effect, is at least a paper millionaire, and I think that's absolutely stunning.
Sounds like the proceeds are going to have to be used towards the electricity it takes to power the crypto and the AI used just to do this one project.
Pretty much, it's already started funding enhancements to itself and additional performance and additional capabilities. So yes.
If I remember correctly, it made the bulk of the money on the initial meme coin scam, but then it actually dumped the meme coin, right, and invested appropriately across some other cryptocurrencies. So it's a little safer now, right? It's not
It
like
diversified its portfolio.
Yeah. Now I have to be very clear here. It is unclear as to whether the model is actually doing this itself, or whether this is sort of an art project on the behalf of the creator, and that he's actually behind some of the decisioning here. But the fact that, first of all, this model trained on the very worst of the very worst information gets to this point, and that people who are fans of its output start to become not only boosters but funders of its efforts. That's, to me, shocking. And the story just keeps getting weirder day by day.
I'm drawing some weird parallels with Ken's paper about incentives, but I can't exactly.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's my litmus test for is it a human? Is it or not? Is the IRS going to tax it on its earnings?
Oh,
Yeah, what if it starts doing illegal things? Who's accountable? The chatbot or the person behind it, right?
yeah.
Well, is it a U.S. citizen? I don't think it can get taxed on that, right?
Let's see.
You don't have to be a citizen to be taxed.
Don't
Yeah.
Reside in the U.S. Now, maybe it's going to claim that its servers are somewhere else
Yeah.
and it resides somewhere else.
Yeah, and Andy Arie is based out of New Zealand, so the IRS isn't going to be coming after him unless I guess he does anything in the U.S.
If he has any foreign, yeah, he has a U.S. presence.
But some equivalent function, right? I mean, and then can it keep this money? Like, does it really belong to the creator? Is it? What do we do?
Yeah, but my instinct is that, right? I mean, it's talking to each other. It's making suggestions, right? I mean, MCP is still pretty new, so it's not like it was already using this to go out and build tools and do these things on its own. So I think it's more likely that this is just a very well played scam by someone who's understands that people who enjoy the least desirable behaviors of humanity are willing to pay for it, and he's getting
the idea of training an AI on the worst stuff does feel like a here, hold my beer sort of initiative.
Right, but I can see people tying this to MCP. I mean, that's what Connor talked about.
Don't give people ideas, Ken.
Yes.
Okay, so maybe Connor might do that.
Yeah, I definitely didn't give Claude access to my crypto wallet.
I asked Llama for like an hour how I could connect it to a crypto wallet. It had a hard time understanding what my purpose was with that, but I couldn't explain to it what happened. It hadn't heard of this story yet. So
got it.
Anyways, it is an interesting one, and I'm sure we can explore it more. That one I sort of popped up at the end of the last episode and just sort of teased it. So I'm glad we took the time to talk about this. I think it's important, this one, and truth told, just in case my boss kind of gripes at me about the content of this one, Kara Sprague told me to be bold, so here we are.
But don't read it. Just listen to this podcast. You'll get everything you need to know about it.
That's right.
Don't actually read the article because you might be triggered forever.
Crazy.
Forever.
Well, and on that note, I guess we've got to probably wrap it up. We're running up against time, and I want to say thanks to everybody for showing up. Connor, that was really cool, actually showing some stuff to us. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Great.
Obviously, we will see you, Lori, Ken, and Joel, of course, again.
And don't forget Lori's pendant.
My pendant. I will bring my pendant always.
the pennant already made a meeting note for the next
Get
one.
it, attached. All right.
All right,
Really,
I'm gonna pop you guys off, and then Byron and I are gonna say goodbyes. So thank you again, and wow, I'm excited to wrap up episode 3, man. It's fun.
Yeah, I think that's the best one yet, and hopefully they'll keep getting better. That's a great
I kind of
discussion.
think so. I kind of think so, and I like that we're sticking to the family feel kind of thing that we
Oh yeah.
that we started off with. I wanted to make it, honestly, it was just and if anyone's kind of wondering, like, boy, what did I just listen to, or what did I just watch? We wanted to make it fun. We just wanted to kind of have a good conversation on a Friday, and that's why we wanted to keep it on Fridays.
And it just happens that you have 3 distinguished engineers and an architect. I mean, I don't think I've ever been in a meeting with all of them more or less 3 times in a row, right? So
Right.
that was pretty cool. I mean,
Yep.
I know them all. We know them all, but they're busy people.
Exactly, and it's always good to bring faces to the community, right? Well-respected faces. So we're gonna keep doing this thing. Show up next Friday. Same
Awesome.
time, same place, and also one other thing to mention too, on the 16th, right? Lori and I have a webinar. So if you are interested in figuring out, a little bit more about AI gateways and what that is, why we need AI gateways, you can check out that information on f5.com. And then we have a couple coming up as well, Byron, right? We've got
We do.
February and March.
Yeah, so we've been doing a sort of a rendition of sort of the lay of the land with AI and what defenders can do about it. So we're going to update that, and that's in February. And then in March, it's open for ideas. So maybe you tease it out to the community and we'll get some. But it'll definitely be about AI and definitely be about security.
Yeah. What do you want to see from us? Let us know. Leave a comment, click like, and subscribe, and all those other things. I'll see you soon,
Awesome.
Byron.
See ya.
We hope you liked this instantiation of AI Friday. We'll be instantiated again next week, same time, same place, and hope to again infer with you. Before we depart, promptly subscribe for all our content and click like to let us know you enjoyed AI Friday.